Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. A terrific guest in studio with me today, Florence Ann Romano. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You wrote an incredible book, Nanny and Me. I love this book. It's terrific. And you write it, basically, it's told through the eyes of the child.
Right, to help them understand the transition of being cared for by their parents to being cared for by a nanny, which can be oftentimes traumatic and no one talks about it, so I decided to talk about it.
So what do you say? Like, someone is, mom and dad have to go back to work. You need someone to watch you. Back in the day, we're both Italian, right? Back in the day, there were more aunts and uncles, and half the time I didn't even know their names. There really were that many.
Sure.
So there was always somebody to watch us.
Right.
But for those of us who've moved around and have careers and you're left with no family all the time, you need a good nanny.
Right.
Because that village isn't necessarily your family anymore.
Right. And that emphasis for me has always been about the village. But what's funny is you hear that saying all the time, the cliche, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, people need directions to where the village is. No one knows how to do this necessarily. And like you said, times have changed. So how do you go about finding this right nanny? Sometimes it still is someone in your family, but it can be a stranger. And oftentimes children in school are going to be comparing themselves to everyone else, and they wonder, oh, why does my mommy not want to take care of me, or my daddy not want to take care of me? Do they not love me? Is there something wrong? Did I do something wrong? So being able to describe why this other person is coming into their life, to love them, to have fun with them, to keep them safe, is a very important conversation for children, and the book is a way to talk about that.
Now, you were a nanny.
Yes, for 15 years.
Wow. How did you get into nannying? You said you babysat as a kid, right?
I did. Just like many young girls, they babysit. But I was that little girl when I was a very young child that asked my mommy to take me to the hospital so I could get my baby.
That's incredible.
Yes. And then I'd come home and I would make birth certificates for all my baby dolls that my mom bought me at the toy store.
Okay, that is really special. Did you have younger brothers and sisters?
I'm the oldest of four, so there's 17 months between myself and the next child, and my brother Michael is autistic, and then I have two more sisters. And so I've always been the leader of the pack. I've always been the captain. And I was always able to use my siblings to learn responsibility and how to care for, younger siblings. But it really wasn't my siblings that brought out the nanny and me. I grew up in a very old-fashioned Italian family. My mom's parents lived with us.
I know. See, I had that too.
Right.
And my parents lived with us until very recently that they passed away. But that's what you do.
That's what
you
do.
You just keep it going,
like you said, that's your tribe, that's your
Yeah.
nest. As my mom always says, you just make the nest bigger. And honestly, it was my grandparents that gave me all the lessons I needed about being a nanny, or just honestly being a good person in life.
Yeah, but you have to be a certain kind of caring person to be able to give to children.
You have to like kids.
You have to like. You have to like kids,
Right.
And you really have to be patient
Oh my
because
gosh, yes.
there are times I had 3 boys under the age of 5,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother only had myself and my much older sister, so 2 girls, and she would sometimes be at the house, and my 3 boys would be running around with underwear on their head, and she was horrified.
Yeah.
She said, "You need to get them under control. They're not." I said, "Mom, this is what they're doing. Look, they're so happy now.
Right.
They're a little older now, and they don't have underwear on their head. They're just fine." But it can be very chaotic.
Sure.
And you can either. I never really knew what to do.
No one does, though. You're not wrong. I mean, Deborah,
Yeah.
all these parents, when I would work for these families, the first thing they would say is like, I don't think I know what I'm doing. I think I'm doing everything wrong. But that's going to be the doubt every single parent has. And truthfully, boys are different than girls. Very different.
Yeah.
And I found that being a nanny too, that the way I disciplined or the way I interacted or bonded with the boys versus girls was always different. But the common denominator with all of that was these kids really just wanted to be loved
And
by,
listened to.
right, listened to, heard, felt that they could trust you. That's huge. So you don't just want the trust from the parents, you want the trust from the child as well.
I got really lucky because we had a nanny, and she still works for us.
Oh my gosh.
21 years.
That's the holy grail.
Yeah,
Right
21
there. That's
years,
what you
and
want.
I love her, and she's my family. She's my friend. I'll talk to her and go, Adela, could you come over here? I need to talk about something about me, so she
Sure.
can help me with my issues.
Sure. Well, she
she's very
became a part of
caring.
your family.
Oh yeah,
And
very
that's what
caring.
you
I
want.
love her.
Yeah.
I find ways to keep her around if because my kids are teenagers.
Right.
And if she doesn't want to come in, I said, no, I do need you. Here, let's do this.
Right.
I just love her that much.
So many of my friends tell me they rather their husbands leave them than they ever lose their nanny because it's such an important part of their life.
I get that.
Right.
So, So, all right. So you write this book from the child's perspective because they may be scared.
Right.
So should mom and dad sit them down and say, we're going to work. We love you so much.
Right.
And we're going to find someone equally as amazing to care for you when we're not there.
Just to make it fun. Children at that age, if you can, that's the time in their life you can really just paint it with, gumdrops and roses. And you want them to be excited about this transition. You don't want them to feel that they did anything wrong. You don't want them to think that in some sort of way their parents have neglected them. So if their parents can sit down and they read this book with them, or even better yet, have the nanny read the book with them too, and they're able to relate to that character and say, oh my gosh, this person's just like me. That is the best situation for these children, is that they're able to look at this character and think, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Even if that's not the wording these children are using, their emotional intelligence understands that.
Should a nanny also be someone who cooks for the kids and does chores and whatnot, or should it just be for the kids?
Oh, that's a point of contention in all families. You have to be very transparent about that in the beginning, because I was never a housekeeper and a nanny. I was focused just on the kids.
Could you have done that?
I didn't want to.
Yeah. You don't look like somebody who's going to, then clean the bathroom.
I didn't want
to.
I mean, I cleaned up after the kids. Kids
That's
made a
different.
mess. I cleaned up. Kids, onesie was full of poop. I cleaned it. But
But not the parents' diapers. No.
I didn't want to be holding, my employer's underwear. It felt weird. So no, that
that's
was
where
never.
you drew the line.
Exactly. So you have to be transparent in the interview process about what exactly you're looking for in this nanny.
That's very important because, as I told you on the phone, I didn't know what I was looking for. I simply didn't know.
Right.
And it evolved. And fortunately, 21 years later, it's evolved nicely.
Right.
Because I think we figured it out together. It is good to have a plan.
If you can. If you can have a plan, it's great. But something I think with you, the reason why you've had this success story of 21 years is you have good instincts.
I do. I have good instincts, and I'm caring to people that are in my home. Because my mom was not a nanny, but she was a waitress and cleaned toilets for a living, which means she worked for other people.
Right.
And I watched how they would treat her, some good and some not.
Right.
So I was always very, very caring to people, anyone in my home.
And that's how you should be in general. And as an employer, that is so important for the nanny, but it's also important for your children to see that example of how you treat people. And that's a great way for children to watch that interaction, and that's something they cultivate as they get older too.
So what do you ask on the initial interview? Do you have the kids there, or do you not have them there?
I wouldn't have the kids there initially. Go out to get coffee with the nanny at first, and get to know them and their personality, and then go to Google. It's your best friend. Go and see what you can find on Google. Go and have a third party do a background check on them. Even if you're using a service that says they're going to do it, still go on Google. See what's going on Instagram, on Facebook. See what you can find. There's so much there.
You mentioned a service. Should you initially call a service for this, or should you do word of mouth, or whatever works?
I was a nanny on care.com and Sitter City and all of those, and I had great success with it, but it's not a foolproof system. I mean, you're still going to find these nannies and caretakers that fall through the cracks. So you have to be the best advocate for your family and your children. So I always suggest a tiered process of interviewing. Meet them for coffee, get to know them. Is the vibe good? Then have them come in the home. Let them interact with the children. Observe how they are with the children. Then go into a trial period. These are your children. These are your most precious possessions. And, how do you trust another person to take care of your kids? And it can't be this haphazard thing you do. You're like, oh my God, I need to get this done and cross this off my list, and I just got to get a nanny. You look good. I'll take you. No, you need to treat it like a business. Right. And that's where I see people getting in trouble today.
We talked about this. What happens when mom and dad are so busy and the kids absolutely end up closer to the nanny? That's a tough place to be.
It's a beautiful place to be. That's the controversial thing I'm going to say. You want your children to bond with this nanny. It never replaces you. I'm a huge advocate of parents still being parents. They have to be active parents. But if you see that your children love this person, then you should have peace of mind that I've done something great for my kids. I have a role model for them. I can go and do what I need to do and, make the money and all of that, and still feel like you have an intimate relationship with your kids that maybe changes, maybe is different. I have been on that side of it as a nanny that have had the children accidentally call me mom in front of the mom.
Oops.
And right? I mean, and that's like for the parents, you can see them just like turn white.
Well, because you feel really
over.
badly. You're probably
Right.
going in and having a conference like, should I quit my job? What should I
Right.
do?
Right.
I mean, there were times, I will admit, I just didn't want to pick up, and by that I
Sure.
mean drive and go pick them up. I was just exhausted.
Right.
So I would send my nanny because she drove, and I thought, should I be doing that? I'm not bonding. I was always a little guilty if I did that, and then I finally just had to let it go. If I was exhausted, that was okay.
Well, that's why you have the help. But you
Yeah.
also have to understand that it becomes a quality versus quantity situation. And, I hate seeing the mom shaming that goes on out there or the dad shaming where,
So true.
right? Because everyone's like, why do you have a nanny? You're home. You shouldn't even have a nanny. Or, you work and why do you have kids if you're not going to take care of your kids? I never entered a family judging what the family did. I was there to take care of those children. And you should be able to find joy in your life in whatever way that is. And if a nanny coming in to help you, to be your village, ask for help, give you peace of mind, then that's what's right for you. But they need to support each other, not, beat each other down.
Why did you decide you wanted to become a nanny?
It honestly happened naturally. I went from being a mommy's helper to a babysitter, and then eventually I just realized I loved it so much, and I had two families I was with for 14 years and watched the children grow up, and it just became a part of me. Even when I went off to college, I nannied for all of my professors' children. It was just part of the fabric of myself. And then I had the holy grail moment. I had just a couple years ago, I went to a wedding, and the little girl that I had nannied for is no longer a little girl. She's rocking it on the East Coast. She's getting married next summer. She sees me across the dance floor, comes running toward me, hugs me, and with tears in her eyes, she said, "You are still the voice in my head today." And in my life, that moment, I knew I had made the right choice.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
I love it.
You going to the wedding?
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. She still texts me and says, you should come visit me. I need my nanny.
My kids are really, really close with the woman who still works for us. I mean, they'll sometimes call her, and I'm fine with it.
And see,
whatever.
they're
friends.
wonderful.
Because now that they're getting older, they're like friendly.
But you've nourished that relationship.
Yeah,
you
no, I
haven't
did.
made your children feel bad about loving someone else.
No,
That's the lesson.
To be honest with you, I'm very grateful.
Right.
Because I did not have family out here. My parents were always visiting. That was great. But when they weren't there, three boys are a lot because I'm one human being, and I can only do so much.
Right.
I can only be here when I also have to be there, and they're active.
Absolutely.
So it's also about choices. Sometimes somebody just gets, has to wait.
Right.
And maybe can't do a practice that day, and that's okay too.
I mean, but when you look at your life now with these, three boys, do you think they love you any less because you were a working mom?
No, but I took time off quite a bit in between because I kind of wanted to be there more, but I still always had her to help me. She helped me quite a bit, and then we would just sort of divide and conquer.
It's like Mary Poppins. She wasn't there really to help the kids. She was there to help the parents, the father.
And you kind of just figure it out as you go, at least for me.
No,
I don't naturally know kids, understand kids. I would look at them and go, what? Whereas you seem
kids
to
are
just...
it's hard to understand children. They don't understand themselves, and you laugh because they kick and scream and they throw tantrums and their emotions are all out of whack and they're able to act in this crazy emotional manner. You grow up and you have to censor yourself and you're not allowed to do that anymore. I think to myself all the time, how lucky this child is to be throwing a tantrum right now. I had a bad day and I'm not allowed to do that. So getting to know how children behave is about observation and is about trial and error. Not everything is going to work. I've seen so many different kids, so many different personalities. The way I discipline one and the other are totally different.
What about, back in the day, it was, what is it, seen but not heard?
Seen but not, oh no.
What do you think about that? Because that still goes on in some cultures.
Yeah, and that's okay for your culture, whatever your culture is. I don't believe that they shouldn't be heard. I believe children need to learn how to use their voice, but here's the caveat to that. There's a problem in our society today with children feeling equal to adults, and that is not something that should have changed.
Nope.
They need to learn respect, and it's going away. And
I couldn't agree more.
And there's an entitlement issue there. So, this idea of, becoming, more modern and, letting our children just kind of do whatever they want and say and be free. I'm sorry, no, there still needs to be structure.
I don't go for it at all.
No,
So,
no.
In our family, I tend to be more the disciplinarian than my husband, and that can go. Sometimes that can get in between us. And I said no. You know, there has to be a line, boundaries, and respect, and that should never go away. No. And they have to treat the nanny with the same level of respect.
Absolutely.
Because they're caring for you.
Well, also they play you against each other, those nannies. They'll be like, I can get away with it, the nanny, but not my parents, or vice versa. So if you're a unified front with the nanny, that's very important.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you that. So what do? You sit your nanny down and say, these are our rules, and that's tough though.
These are the rules of the home. That happens before you even hire that nanny. You need to tell them what your values are. I'm a big advocate of always talking about knowing thyself, and what I mean by that is, what are my values, our family's values, and then the nanny also knowing what her or his values are. There's no way you are going to have a successful relationship with this person in your home if you do not see eye to eye on very important things. For example, discipline. Do you believe in corporal punishment? Do you want this nanny spanking your child?
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to answer, do you want the nanny to be a certain religion? Are they going to take a child to a service or a mass? Or, are there nutritional requirements that you have? Or do they need to have a certain degree? Do they have to speak 4 languages? These are questions you have to ask yourself.
See, and that's the stuff I didn't even know to ask. I was so confused. Somehow it worked out, because you're right. I was very instinctive about it, but that's very important. You do need to know these little things. And if you don't know, at least if the person that's in your home is kind. I always look for kind.
Kind is key.
What about speaking a different language? People a nanny who doesn't speak English?
Well, I mean, if you speak the language, the native tongue of the nanny, then of course you can hire that nanny. But I mean, I could have never gone and worked for a family that spoke anything other than English, because I can barely get the English words out half the time. So no, I mean, and I also wasn't a nanny that came speaking 4 different languages. I was a performance theater major, Deborah, in school. I mean, I put on a puppet show for the kids, but teach you algebra or speak in German, there's no way that was going to happen.
Yeah, I wish I had asked her to speak more in Spanish, because she speaks both quite well.
Right.
And I didn't, because I didn't want to put a burden on anybody. It's like, now what? I'm going to teach a language. Yeah. But now that they're a little older and they took it in school, they will speak with her just to keep brushed up on it, which I thought was so important.
That's wonderful.
I am for hiring someone that's here legally, though, because I don't know, it could just get messy.
It can.
That can get a little messy.
You got to pay taxes on that, nanny.
Yeah, you have to do everything.
Right,
I just feel like it could get messy, so try to keep it clean if you can.
If you can, yes, I think do it
I
the
pass
legal
no
way.
judgment.
No, I mean, I
know people who do it in all ways,
right,
but I just think it might be easier, so you don't have a problem.
Absolutely, sure. I mean, you want to do things on the up and up if you can, but you look at the different types of nannies that we have in this country, and it's different. A lot of people do come from Europe, and they come and they want to be an au pair, and one of the things that really bothers me about how we hire nannies today is people will say, I'm going to do it until something better comes along, or until I figure out what I want to do.
I never thought that. Really?
Yeah, they do. I've heard it so many times, and I look at these people, I get like so mad. I'm like white knuckling it, because I'm sorry, you have a really important job, if not one of the most important jobs.
You have a little person that you brought into the world.
And you're caring for them. I used to watch the newborn baby sleep, because I was this is before like the Owlet SmartSat, what they would tell you if the child's breathing and the heart rate. I would watch them sleep, because I'd be so nervous that on my watch something would happen. So it was.
My husband used to put a mirror under their nose to make.
Yes,
I would wake up. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making sure he's breathing. I'm like, he's fine.
I'd put my hand on their tummy to see if their tummy up. Ray, I mean,
sometimes
I got
he'd push him awake just to make sure. I'm like, oh, thanks. Really? You take him in the next room and breastfeed him.
I got nervous when my youngest sister was born. She was in the bassinet, and I didn't know I didn't really know if she was okay or not. So I kind of pushed her a little over, like not pushed her, but I nudged her, and she kind of rolled a little bit, and her umbilical cord fell out, like the little, what's left.
Oh, that must have been frightening.
Ran to my mother. Betty broke the baby. I don't know what happened. And it was fine. But I was, even at that age, I was 10 years old when she was born.
Boy, you really were born with an instinct to care for people.
The instinct, the maternal instinct in me has always been there. But for children, I think I've always just imagined myself as a child, I suppose, and I'm able to connect with children in that way. I've had children run up to me in airports. I don't know the kids, and they'll come run and hug my leg, and the mother's like, what's this kid doing? Who are you?
Little girls like me a lot. I connect with girls. That's why I had 3 boys. But I'm convinced there's got to be a granddaughter someday down the road.
I think so.
I'm praying, but little girls like me.
And I'm not
little
surprised
boys
by that.
run the other way.
Little boys are always running the other way anyway.
It's
They
like,
don't know
wait,
what's going
now
on.
what?
Yeah,
What do I do? But
No.
yeah, little girls are so sweet.
There's a connection, with children and adults that it's not always clear why, but there's an intuition or something there that children feel, and children have great instincts.
Okay.
They feel it.
Couple questions.
Sure.
You told me 64% of people in the U.S. have nannies.
Have nannies, right?
It's pretty high. We need them.
We need them. It's a growing statistic. The reason why we have that today is because both parents are usually working in the home now, or you have a lot of single parents, or you have mothers that have decided to have children on their own and forget that man. I'm just going to be a mom on my own. These people have to have help. So that grows in line with the employment rate.
Trial period. How long should that be? We talked about that, but how long do you think?
It's going to depend on on what the family can withstand. I would suggest between 2 and 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
it's not that bad. And you tell the person.
Yes, you tell the person.
This is a trial period.
Trial period.
Always up front.
And that's going to be part of their contract too. But trial period is really important. And then what's also really important is deciding whether or not you believe in nanny cams. And this is something every family has to ask themselves.
I never did it. But
No.
I probably needed it for the kids, not the nanny. But I just never did it. What do you think?
Well, I've always said you should be behaving as if someone's watching you. I mean, you should be doing the right thing anyway. But for me, a nanny cam goes beyond just keeping an eye on that nanny. You have to think about these children who are newborns. They can't communicate for themselves, tell you what's going on. Also, special needs children. They can't, if they don't have language, they can't tell you what's really going on.
I'm not even opposed to it. I just never did it, and I would hope that whoever you hire isn't against it, because there's your red flag.
Well, you
right?
ask that question. Are you against nanny cams? And you don't have to ask it. I mean, but there are different implications depending on the states you live, where you can or cannot get away with that footage. Like, for example, in Illinois, where I'm from, you can have footage. You can't have audio without getting the permission of the nanny.
Right. It's like tapping somebody,
Right.
I think, or something.
Exactly.
Right? Sort of the same thing. Okay, interesting. Hiring the hot nanny. So you hire the hot nanny. Oh boy, I was thinking about that when we spoke on the phone.
My favorite question, yes.
And no disrespect to anyone, but Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
He look what happened there. And the woman that he was with wasn't particularly younger. But it happened anyway.
It's not usually about them even being more attractive or, whatever it is. Sometimes the grass is just always greener, and the temptation is there in the household. And but can you hire one? Of course you can. It's going to be about trust with you and your spouse. And if that nanny is going to be a home wrecker, and if that nanny is going to focus on those children. I remember very vividly a conversation with a former employer where I went in to get the baby, and the mom had friends over. And I went and I said, "Hi, everyone." And then I took the baby into the other room.
Did you hear the ladies go, "What?"
Then that's exactly what happened. The lady goes, "This is your nanny. You let this person around your husband." And so the woman, God bless her, I loved her so much. She looked at them and said, "Oh, please, she wants nothing to do with him. I'm not worried." And
really?
so
I don't even want anything to do with him. She doesn't want him either.
So it's never a problem, and I've never been treated, in some sort of objective way by, the husbands of the families I've worked for. But it happens.
There's a reason, though. You're a professional.
Well, I wasn't there to break up a home.
Yeah, you're a true professional. And I think anyone hiring you, it's clear you're there for you, for the kids.
That's exactly what
Not everyone is quite the same. So you do have to be a little careful.
You do.
Just because,
But remember to think about the kids, though. What happens if, the spouse cheats with the nanny, and then those children loved that nanny with their whole heart?
That's complicated.
Then you
Oh
rip
my
them
God.
away from the kids. And what did you do? You destroyed a family. You destroyed these children, someone they trusted and loved. I mean, please, it's the most selfish thing in the world. I'll you can hire a hot nanny, but it has to be up to you and what the values.
Yeah,
of
they
your
better
home.
be professional. Or your husband. You have to trust him. Yeah. It's complicated. Your book. So why did you decide to write this book?
I always knew I wanted to write a children's book, but wasn't exactly sure when or how or what it would be about. And then I was thinking about it one day, and I thought, well, write what you know. And what I knew was 15 years of experience of being a nanny and doing all this research and seeing what was not available out there for children to understand why they have a nanny. And I decided I would be the one to talk about it. And I'm glad I did, because I'm hearing it's a very good baby shower gift. That's what people are telling me. And all these moms are going back to work, and it was really a labor of love and not even labor, truthfully. It was just me getting to collect all my favorite memories with these kids.
It's funny you said that. My cousin's daughter's getting married, and I suggested this for everyone. I did. I suggested, and I said, I have a great book. It's a great gift, but not just a gift, just to hand out to the other women in the room and men in the room, not just women.
Right.
Women
no, not just women.
Men.
A lot of people at baby showers now, they don't give cards. They want you to contribute a book to their library, their collection. So I'm speaking biasly, of course, but I think
it is, though. It's also an easy read.
It's an easy read.
Easy to understand.
It's colorful, and kids, enjoy it. One of my best girlfriends, when the book first came out, her daughter memorized it, and then she started reading the book to the family, and she didn't even need to look at the pages. It was adorable.
Wow. You also have a company up in Chicago. Kindred Content.
Yes.
What is that? It's a production company.
It's a production company. We do multimedia production for businesses, branded content. We work with an array of different corporations to help them, advertise their brand to their demographic. But we also do a lot of work with nonprofits, and those videos you see at those galas where you're like, we need to raise $1,000, or we need to whatever it is.
So you put on the videos.
We put on those videos.
So that means you write the content. That's great.
And shoot the content and do all of that.
Oh, that's very, very interesting. Wow. And also in August, you're coming out with
a new web series called The Windy City Nanny.
Windy City, because she's from Chicago.
Yes, I hail from the Windy City.
Not because she's like blowing in the wind, but because you're from Chicago.
From Chicago.
Okay.
I always picture Mary Poppins in
I do too.
umbrella. I know, just coming in.
You need a picture with an umbrella.
I know. And I use those in graphics very often, but I'm always worried about trademark issues. Who knows? But no, so the series is going to drop at the end of August, and we decided to do a web series that talked about real life, real families in America.
So you'll have real families
families that I interview about how to encourage and empower them and the situations they're dealing with in their life currently with their nanny or with their children or in their home in general.
Oh, I love that. So they will be on the show with you.
They will be on the show with me. I'll be interviewing them. But it's not even about me. I always say I'm so proud of these interviewees. They come from all walks of life. We have, different untraditional families. We have people with chronic illness, just a widow. I mean, we have every different situation you can think of, but there's always a common denominator to it. There's always a relatable topic for everybody.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
You're not nannying anymore?
No, I'm a retired nanny now. I stay connected to children, in a different way, and I feel that this is the most beneficial way for me now to be connected to nannies and parents and to be able
help
to
others.
counsel. Yes,
to help
exactly.
Oh, there's one question I forgot to ask. We do have to wrap up. What do you pay? Is it hourly? Is it weekly? How do you do that?
Well, every nanny is going to be different. Every state is different. So I don't like to give a dollar amount to it necessarily, but it's going to also depend on the credentials that come along with that nanny. If you have someone with a master's degree, you could be paying them anywhere between $100,000, $200,000. If they're traveling with you, they come with an enormous pedigree. But generally, you're going to have that negotiation right from the jump.
Right from the beginning.
Yes, exactly. So
make sure. For people who can't afford that, who aren't even making close to that.
Right. Can you afford a nanny? Of course you can afford a nanny. There's different ways to do that. You can have nanny share programs, but sometimes having a nanny is less expensive than daycare today, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's more personal as well.
Exactly.
Wonderful. So the web series, YouTube,
yes.
Okay.
Windy City Nanny, and my website's windycitynanny.com, and then I'm also very active on Instagram and Facebook, and I answer any email I get. So if you have any questions, anything at all, or even if you live in Chicago and want to be on the web series, I'd love to hear from you.
Should they instant message you on?
Sure. They can go right to the website and message me through email, or they can through Insta.
I love Instagram messaging. It's so instant.
It's so easy. So I would prefer that on Insta. If you message me, or someone that would think would be a great candidate, and then hopefully it won't just be Chicago anymore. We'll branch off other places.
Yeah, wonderful. And Nanny and Me, please pick this up. It's really a terrific read. It's lovely to read to the children. It's peaceful and it's calming, which is what I love about it. That's what these kids now need.
You so
and
much.
The parents too.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
Thank you. This was a delight. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. You're wonderful. Anything else you want to add?
No, just thanks for having me. And if you want to get the book, you can get it anywhere, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or go right to my website and do that as well.
Wonderful. And thank you for bringing your mom
and
your publicist. They're over there. Hello.
I know. My fans. These are the two.
We got the fans. We got fans in the room.
I know.
Thank you so much. We will see you next time here on Deborah Kobylt Live. Please remember, we are on YouTube. We're on Facebook Live. All of our promos we put on our Instagram. And if you want to listen to our podcast, it's Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and honestly, just anywhere else that you get your podcast. So thanks for tuning in. Nanny and Me, Florence Ann Romano, fellow Italian. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.